Um, Hi, so let's see, I'm gonna do, everybody's doing one last video thing about the Jimmy Dore, um, Kyle Kulinski, uh, issue, and, so I'm gonna do maybe my last video about it. I don't know. I feel like, I honestly haven't followed, like, Kyle Kulinski that much. I kind of, like, I guess I assumed he was a shit lib a while ago. I'm not sure. I mean, I think I like did follow him. Like I probably was subscribed to him at some point on here. I mean on yeah, on YouTube. But like um but yeah, I kind of assumed he was, I don't know. He acts like a shill, you know? He's kind of like, you know, maybe like Ryan Grimm in a way, where even though they do a lot of good work, they've done a lot of good work, but their whole demeanor comes off kind of like a shill, like a, a teacher's pet kind of, somebody who's at the end of the day, uh, I don't know, it's just a certain type of, like, they seem fake, right? Like they seem like they're gonna uh, potentially be subservient to power, and even when that might mean helping power uh, crush the powerless. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to bring in like a body language expert, but even just in general, what I knew of him, I hadn't really paid attention because he kind of seemed like, yeah, kind of progressive, but kind of a shit lib too. So anyway, like but I guess Jimmy Dore like had a higher opinion of him than I did, seemingly, or anyway, they were friends, and at least he didn't think he was gonna stab him in the back, and because the Young Turks and Jimmy Dore and were in a conflict, and basically Jimmy Dore used to be on the Young Turks, and Kyle Kulinski still is on the Young Turks. Um, so um, anyway, he didn't want to get involved. I mean, that's normal. You'd say like most people probably be like that. But at the same time, when you're trying to be a leftist and you're trying to be a leftist leader of sorts, then it is pretty disappointing if you can't call out, because it was a pretty one-sided thing. It's like basically just because Jimmy Dore was saying, criticizing the fact that his show was one of the only shows, or maybe the only leftist show that was covering, I don't know if it was about Russiagate or Syria or both. So then Anna Kasparian took that personally because she, of course, and told him off and like called him a grifter. I don't know if that was a tweet or something. Anyway, and then there's like all this drama, or like back and forth. I mean, I think it was kind of like, then more got worse during Force the Vote, and honestly I didn't follow all the zigzags of that, but apparently like the Young Turks were seen as against Jimmy on the Force the Vote, and and then Cenk Uygur did a tweet while Israel was bombing Gaza a couple months ago, while Israel was genociding, like engaged in genocide against the Arabs, the indigenous people. He said, well, it's just because they're sky gods, like, oh, they're just fighting over their simple sky gods or something. Like, he tweeted out some stupid thing. Like, it's basically like the typical, smug Western, like, dismissal of just saying, well, they've been fighting forever because of their backward, Middle Eastern religion. I mean, he's Middle Eastern himself too, but that's just a standard thing that people do, to just dismiss it and be like, yeah, that whole area is just, like, that's like an atheist, a certain type of smug Western atheist's approach to it. Anyway, so he got, trolled for that tweet, including by a lot of people, including by his own nephew. Was basically like, uncle, like, no, this is not cool. And then Aaron Mate, who's from the Gray Zone, who's done a lot of good work covering Syria, which he's worked together with Jimmy Dore on and gotten a lot of flack for. He like replied to Cenk's tweet and said, like, this is the worst tweet that was ever tweeted or something like that. So anyway, like, Cenk, I know I like explained this in an earlier video, but anyway, I'm going to try and run through it all. Like, Cenk had a meltdown in one of his videos, told off Aaron Mate, said he was paid by the Russians and by Assad. Anna Kasparian chimed in, said, fuck Aaron Mate, flipped off the camera, had a total meltdown. All just because, like, they did, like, Aaron Mate did a good, clown on his terrible tweet. So anyway, then Jimmy Dore was, like, defending Aaron Mate on his show, and then Anna Kasparian blackmailed him, sent him a DM, like, saying that she's gonna, because he keeps running his mouth, Jimmy Dore, because he keeps running his mouth, she's gonna expose how he was such a sexist pig or something back at the Young Turks when she was his boss. And she specifically mentioned an incident when he said that he asked her where she got some pants, because he said he wanted to buy those pants for his wife. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, as Jimmy pointed out, that's not a very good smoking gun. Like, it literally has the phrase for my wife, like, in this supposed, like, inappropriate line. But yeah, then there's the other incident where she basically said, well, you gave me a letter, apology letter. And as he took it, which there's probably correct, that the reason she mentioned that is because she has the physical letter and she can use that letter against him. So there's a blackmail. That out of the goodness of his heart, this guy, over a little joke one time when he said nice news skirt to her, because it was during the news, and she was wearing a skirt that was so small that I guess when she bent over, her, like, underwear was showing, and I'm not sure if anything else was showing, but, like, it was kind of like flashing people. So he made that joke and whatever, but then he felt bad because she was embarrassed, so he gave her a letter, a card, and something, I don't know. Anyway, and so she's trying to use that, like, use his good decency, the fact that and then she saved this letter apparently all these years, and she's going to use that against him. So anyway, he brought it up on his show, and he showed the whole DM, and he explained what happened, and he said, like, this is ridiculous, right? This is just a blackmail. This is nothing like compared to how the Anna and like it was a non-issue basically, and especially compared to how Anna and Cenk acted on their own show, where they posted, photos of Britney's vagina, like, or not like the photos of it, but yeah, like blurred photos, and then they'd say go to our website to see the real photo, and then they probably made revenue or like off the clicks from that. So they were profiting off of an unconsensual photo of photographer that was basically stalking like Britney, and got this like upskirt moment, or whatever, regardless what the photographer's like motives were initially, like it was an unconsensual, it wasn't like an intentional thing that she was flashing the world. It was something like this moment because she was getting photographed in all these every moment, and then they got this moment and then they ran with it, and the Young Turks ran with it. Anyway, so like so that all basically showed how the Young Turks were trash and were totally in the wrong in all of this. And meanwhile, like Anna and Cenk did a segment about this incident where Jimmy had said like nice news skirt, and they said that if there's any of their viewers that are okay with that and that can tolerate that kind of behavior, they don't even want those viewers. Just leave, just unsubscribe. So I mean, probably most of their viewers are just bots, like not even real people, but I think they have lost a bunch of people. Anyway, so then Carl Kulinski gets into it, and he's basically taking Jimmy's side about most of it, but then it seems like he needed to both sides it, just the same way that Cenk Uygur needed to both sides Israel-Palestine, and so he just was a douche to both sides, Instead of like, he didn't want to seem like he was anti-Israel, so he was just anti-Middle Easterner. He's just like, oh, they're all idiots with their sky gods. So this is the same thing like Kyle Kulinski did. Like, he's like, he didn't want to just be like trashing the Young Turks, so he trashed the Young Turks and he also trashed Jimmy Dore. And then he's like, how could this go wrong? Who did this? Who killed like my reputation? So yeah, like, I don't know. I'm not sure like if there's any rational reasoning behind the actions of Kyle Kulinski or of the Young Turks, other than they're just backed into a corner and all they can do is lie. I mean, I think one thing, okay, so Kyle Kulinski, basically the way that he trashed Jimmy Dore was that he highlighted the fact that Jimmy Dore, when he retold the story about the nice news skirt incident, that he said that like that it was inappropriate, that he thought it was inappropriate for on the news. Like he thought like there was supposed to be a serious show, talk about the news. I don't know, whatever. I mean, some people say that's a boomer take. Maybe it is, but it's very widespread, like a lot of people think that you shouldn't have to sex everything up. You should be able to just have some politics, have some news. Not everything should have to be sold by sex. Also, she was there with her students, so maybe he was also saying he wasn't sure how appropriate it was for her to be like flashing her students and flashing him, who's her employee, and all this. Anyway, so that's his opinion. He thought it wasn't appropriate, but he didn't make a big deal of it. Like, he mostly was focusing on the blackmail and just how ridiculous the whole accusation against him was. But anyway, Kyle Kulinski, the one takeaway, the one thing that visibly upset him about the whole incident, from from the Young Turks, calling Aaron Mate a paid Russian, Syrian agent, to the blackmail, to them saying anybody who is okay with Jimmy, they don't want to watch their show, etc. The only thing that visibly made Kyle upset in his segment about it was when he said that how Jimmy slut shamed Anna by saying that this skirt wasn't appropriate in front of her students, whatever. That's all that made him mad. And not only did it make him mad, like he literally said, I watched this video and the thing that made me mad, so he's said literally that the blackmailing didn't make him mad, but this made him mad, and he got he went into some monologue about how, who is he? He's like a right-wing fundamentalist Christian trying to tell women how to dress. And if he said if he said this to my girlfriend, I would punch him in the face or something like that. Or I would beat him up, or it's so crazy, right? Anyway, but these are the voices of reason. Like Jimmy Dore is the crazy, nuclear, madman. That's the thing, is all these podcasters, they're so, Jimmy is popular among podcast viewers, and is increasingly so, but he's not as popular among podcasters because they're all pussies, and they're all I don't know, a lot of them are pussies and they're corrupt. So it's not good for them to have Jimmy around reminding them of that, being who they can never be. The guy who, instead of being well, I'm a nice liberal, so I just like to kiss a little bit of everyone's ass, or, something that Kyle Kulinski would pretend to be. Jimmy Dore doesn't even have to pretend that, because he never wanted to. He's just fuck these right-wing Democrats, fuck the right-wing Republicans, whatever. He just says it. He's I think somebody who is unconstrained is always going to irk those who are constrained. But also, I don't ever want to rule out, over psychoanalyze this stuff and rule out that these bad actors are being paid to be bad actors, either in just the way that, in capitalism, you get money by serving capital, or they could even be, deep state assets. Certainly a lot of the Young Turks seem like, people on that show, a lot of them seem like deep state assets, the way they're obsessed with promoting, Department of Defense talking points, obsessed with it. That just seems weird, unless they're, a lot of people in the news are CIA, that's always been the case. Since there's been a CIA, since there's been all this deep state, they've always tried to take over the news. There was something called Operation okay, I don't know, but anyway, there was an operation officially to infiltrate news organizations, etc., and it's been going and ongoing. And then plus you just have, if you have enough people that literally are CIA, which nowadays they don't even have to hide it anymore. They used to have they just find who are all the top anchors and try to either buy them for the CIA or blackmail them or something. But nowadays they can just have CIA people on the news, CNN, MSNBC. Half the people on there are directly from the deep state, and they don't even pretend otherwise. And then there's enough between those people and the ones that still are secret ones there's such a culture that just becomes the news culture. So then other people just go along with it and just basically act as CIA assets and agents without even being directly on the CIA payroll, just because that's what's done. Like that's considered what journalism is, if you want to work for the mainstream or whatever. So yeah, like I wouldn't, I don't want to psychoanalyze too much. Like anybody who's going too hard, being too much of a saboteur, at the very least, like it should become a question like whether they might be compromised, including Kyle Kulinski, but certainly the Young Turks, especially given their whole history. We should never rule out that they're just literally CIA agents. And so, you don't have to psychoanalyze that at all. It's just like, what would the CIA want them to say at this point, at this moment? That's what they're going to say. So anyway, so Kyle Kulinski, I tried to do this both sides thing, by both sidism, just the same way that Cheng stepped into this mess by trying to both sides Israel Palestine, because he didn't want to piss off Zionists, because he has probably a lot of Zionist friends, or at least some Zionist friends. That's what I'm guessing, because if you're going to say something that craven towards Palestinians, chances are, and whatever, that's my guess. And similarly, Kyle Kulinski doesn't want to alienate the Young Turks, right? He's, in his videos, he's like talking about like, okay, here are my good friends, the Young Turks and Jimmy Dore, and I don't want to lose these friends. I don't want to get involved in this drama. But then he keeps getting more involved in the drama. But like, if he, just the fact that he values the friendship of the Young Turks on the same level as Jimmy Dore's friendship should be an indicator, because these are people that, as he just said, like every single point of politics, he agrees with Jimmy Dore. But to him, like the political is not personal. But that's that's bullshit. Like the political is always personal. Like if you have terrible politics, you can't be a good person. Politics is part of who you are. It's part of the world. It's part of life. So if you're terrible politically, you're basically terrible. If you don't care, if you're willing to shit on Palestinians while they're being bombed, while they're being genocided, maybe your friendship isn't so valuable as maybe somebody like Jimmy Dore who has a conscience, like, so just the fact that he was so solicitous to like hold on to his relationship with the Young Turks, and just the language he uses about them, like he's willing to strongly criticize things that they've done, but his language, he doesn't use anything negative to describe them, whereas the way he talks about Jimmy Dore, it's more insulting. Like even his like thing of like he only has 1 year, he goes nuclear, which is nonsense. Like it's just the fact that he has the capacity to go quote unquote nuclear. I mean, the irony is that he's probably much more anti-nuclear than any of these other people, but it's nonsense. Like Kyle Kulinski is the one who is melting down through his whole video, and Jimmy Dore was totally calm and collected. So anyway, Jimmy did a reply to Kyle's video, basically saying thank you for agreeing with me about the political stuff and defending me, saying that I'm not a grifter, I'm not a right winger, which the Young Turks had been saying. But also, what the fuck about even making a big deal at all about this issue of like finding a skirt inappropriate for work. But B, to even go into a thing of wanting to punch him in the face, or, you know, like a monologue about punching him in the face, hypothetically. So, you know, he's like, what the hell, man? And he said, you know, we're not trying to cancel you. We still consider you a friend, but what the hell? So anyway, Kyle responds, and he responds, and he basically says sorry for like a bunch of things that he should have apologized in the beginning for. Oh no, the other thing was that they totally ghosted Kyle and Crystal. I guess they have a show, Crystal Ball, and then they totally ghosted Jimmy when he was supposed to go on their show the other day, and it was planned for a month, and they didn't send him anything, and so he texted them or something when the, like, basically you know, at the time of the show or an hour or two before, because he wasn't hearing anything from them, and they didn't reply because they were in the show that he was supposed to be in, and they were interviewing Cheng's cousin, and which is worse optics, you could say, than it really, I mean, it's worse optics than it really is, because this is the cousin who also trolled Cheng in that original over that original tweet about Israel-Palestine. So I can see how Kyle and Crystal thought this would be a good neutral, like, here's somebody who is also critical of the Young Turks and of Cenk Uygur, but is somewhat of a neutral figure because he's also his cousin, you know, doesn't hate him or anything. So I can understand that. Like, it's not as bad as it looks from the outside when they just say, like, instead he was interviewing his cousin, but it doesn't, like, it's like they should have thought about that optics. And the fact is, like, they, you know, they ghosted him, they screwed him over. Like, he was, like, Jimmy was supposed to be on that show, and then when he accused them of ghosting him on his show, Kyle comes back and he's like, oh, come on, man, we didn't ghost you. We replied to you as soon as we saw your message, like 3 hours later after the show that you were supposed to be on, but instead